What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another episode of the Premier League Spur-Spective, which is the review show from Predict the Prem. And we've got scores between me and my brother. It's 328 to 329 going into the penultimate game of the season. And the way the scoring works, it's 5 points for a correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result. And the star man, once you pick that man, you can't pick them again for the rest of the season. It's 5 points for a goal, 3 points for an assist. And we do have predictions to make at the end of this show as well for the two midweek fixtures. And let's get into the first game, which was the midweek clash between Newcastle and Brighton, which finished 4-1 to Newcastle on the day. Sim went 2-2, I went 2-1, and I get a point for this one. But it was a really interesting game of football, this one, wasn't it? I thought Newcastle were absolutely sensational.
Yeah, they deserved it, and I've never seen a team shackle Brighton as well as this Newcastle team did with their aggressive pressing. Didn't let Brighton play out from the back whatsoever. Brighton usually like teams who come at them and kind of press them, but they did not like Newcastle's press whatsoever. And Brighton pretty much struggled throughout to create any sort of chances, despite scoring in the second half against a run of play. Newcastle made the most of their set-piece chances to go 2-0 up in the first half, and then it was actually 2-1 for a while. And looked like Brighton might get back into it late on, but two late goals, goal and assist from Callum Wilson late in the game sealed the 4-1 victory. A very, very big win for Newcastle, who were kind of on a performance-wise not performing at their best, but this was a welcome victory. And yeah, look, we know they got top four now, so that was probably the result that did it for them. Yeah,
agreed. And Brighton, such a strange team. I mean, in the last three games, if we take this game into account, losing 5-1 to Everton, beating Arsenal 3-0, and then losing 4-1 to Newcastle. I mean, they're such a hard team to predict, aren't they?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, especially the level of performance, you would have thought they would have taken that blueprint from the Arsenal game into this game. But I think the difference between Newcastle and Arsenal was just Newcastle had that bit more belief and hunger about them, whereas Arsenal seemed defeated. And maybe when you're a bit off it on your press against this Brighton team, they can play through you. But Newcastle were not, and it was really impressive from Newcastle.
All right, so let's move on. Let's move on to the Tottenham game. Tottenham against Brentford, 3-1 to Brentford on the day. Sim went 1-1, I went 1-0 to Spurs. How wrong were we? I thought, look, really good first half from Tottenham. I thought we played really well in a new system. Ryan Mason conjured up with Kulusevski in the number 10, but we just couldn't keep up those energy levels in the second half, and Brighton really put it on us in that second half and got the deserved victory, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, it was clinical finishing from from Brentford, which Tottenham were very much guilty of in that first half. Sonny had a few chances. Emerson shot clear off the line. Obviously, it was an unbelievable goal from Harry Kane. What a time to get that free kick that we've all been waiting for. But it's incredible. I mean, it's gone under the radar, how good of a goal that was this weekend.
Yeah, it's a shame that it comes in a 3-1 loss, because no one's ever going to remember it. No one's ever going to talk about it.
It's unreal.
A bit like that Lamella goal in the North London derby with the Rabona. You know, we lost the game, so no one's ever going to talk about it again.
That should be contender for goal of the season.
Yeah, it really should be. And I was saying to Danny Kyriakou in the stands, first of all, we're all laughing at the time, because Harry Kane is trying to line up the free kick, and we're just just stay away, Kane, just stay away. But it was a new routine, wasn't it? Because Kulusevski laid it off to Harry Kane, and then Kane, with the moving ball, just guided it into the top corner with a lovely finish. And why don't we try that more?
Yeah, we should. I remember he did that once as well. I remember, I think it was against Stoke a few years ago, and it deflected into the back of the net. So it's not the first time he's done it, but I mean, it's one of the best strikes you're ever likely to see. And again, I think Harry Kane as well broke the record for the most games scored in a season, which is incredible when you think about the season that we've had. But anyway, look, Brentford caught us on a couple of counter-attacks in that second half, made it 2-1, and then obviously Ollie Skip, awful on the edge of his own box, gives it away. That makes it 3-1. And as you say, we had high energy in that first half, but not only couldn't keep it up, but I think the crucial thing is we didn't get that second goal in the first half, which would have given us that buffer. So in the end, we end up losing, and that means no Europa League football now for Tottenham next season.
Let's move on to Bournemouth against Manchester United. It did finish 1-0 to Man United on the day. Sim went 2-0, I went 1-0, so Sim gets 1 point. I get a big fat 5-pointer for this one. I wasn't watching the game, but I saw the highlights, and Man United, I mean, they just had so many shots on goal, so many efforts. I was surprised it was only 1-0, but they got the deserved 3 points in the end.
Yeah, to be fair as well, I think Casemiro scored within the first 5-10 minutes as well. So you're thinking, sure, there's going to be another goal in this game. But to be fair to Bournemouth, I thought later on in the game, they did have a couple chances to head him, have to make a few saves. But apart from a few moments from Solanke, they didn't really ever look like conceding Man United. And to be fair, Man United actually, like, their defensive record has really gone under the radar this season, because I think it's been overshadowed by the fact they've lost 7-0 to Liverpool, 6-3 to Man City. So they've taken a few big and 4-0 to Brentford. But apart from that, like, apart from those 3 games, they've actually had a really solid backline, and they've kept the most clean sheets in the league, even with an ever-changing backline with injuries as well. Obviously, they're a point away from Champions League football now, so that'll be a very crucial win, and that maybe once if they get that draw midweek, they can have their sights on the FA Cup final.
Yeah, and it's what an FA. I mean, this isn't just an FA Cup final for them. This is to stop Man City equaling their treble. So, what a massive game that's going to be. And you got to give credit to Ten Hag, to be honest, for that defensive record, because it doesn't matter who comes into that back line. They seem to be very solid at the back, apart from those few games that you were talking about. But let's move on. Fulham against Crystal Palace, 2-2 on the day. Sim went 2-2. I went 1-1. So this is Sim's turn to get the 5-pointer, and I got the 1-pointer. Really interesting game. It was 1-1 at half-time. Alexander Mitrovic gets that leveller on the stroke of half-time. Then he scores again to put Fulham 2-1 up, and then Joel Ward scores with about 7-8 minutes to go, and it did finish 2-2. But it was a really interesting battle, this one.
Yeah, I wasn't watching most of it, to be honest, but it did seem that kind of game. And look, end of season, both teams had not much to play for. So both kind of went for the win, but Mitrovic, it was no surprise to me, Mitrovic, after that long ban, he's come back with that fire in his belly. 3 goals in 2 games since he's come back in for Fulham, and was enough for the victory this time. A good point probably for Crystal Palace to just keep up that good return under Roy Hodgson. They can't get top half, so they're pretty much battling to finish above Chelsea at this point, and they're doing a good job of it because they're a point ahead. So that's it. Fulham, they now can't get European football. In fact, they can't move up or down. So 10th place for them, and that's a good return for a team promoted from the Championship. And Marcus Silva's done a really good job.
Really good job. I'm actually really impressed with Marcus Silva. I've actually been saying all season to you that I think Marco Silva's a really good manager, and I think that's been proved this season for what he's done with Fulham. But let's move on to Liverpool against Aston Villa. 1-1 on the day at Anfield. Very impressive performance and result for Aston Villa. Sim went 3-1 to Liverpool. I went 2-0 to Liverpool, and that stops, I think it was 8 wins in a row Liverpool were on before this. So really, really impressive from Unai Emery and Villa. And you're thinking, if you're a Liverpool fan right now, you're thinking, like, you've done all this hard work, 8 wins in a row to try and get that top 4. And when it really mattered, I know Man United won at the end of the day, but they didn't know that because they were playing at the same time. Like, how could they let this slip and not go and win against Aston Villa? But credit to Aston Villa, because I thought in the first half they played really well. Second half, I thought Liverpool came back into it and got that equaliser right at the end. But it was all that first half work that did it for Aston Villa.
It was a really eventful game. Obviously, Watkins missing a penalty early on, missing the target, which for a striker like Watkins, who's been on good form recently, obviously must have been perplexing that he missed that penalty. It was a really poor penalty from him, actually. But they obviously didn't matter because Ramsey scored very soon after that. And it looked like it was going to be a really good professional away performance. Actually, it was really good counter-attacking football in that first half. But to be fair to Liverpool, they did respond to that second half. I thought Mings was extremely, extremely lucky to stay on the pitch with that high challenge into Gakpo's chest. You can see the marks on Gakpo's chest after that challenge as well. I thought he should have gone. I thought the referee got that one wrong. And then as well, with about 20 minutes to go, they had a really unfortunate decision when there was given offside because Van Dijk hit the ball onto a Villa defender, and it rebounded into... Diaz hit a ball into a Villa defender, it rebounded to Van Dijk, and he squared it to Gakpo, scored. But because that rebound wasn't deemed a deliberate act, it was given offside, and I thought that was harsh because it looked like the defender was trying to block the ball. But it's not deemed a deliberate act. They did end up getting the equaliser on 89, but the thing is, they equalised on 89, then they had 9 minutes of added on time. So, okay, maybe Liverpool are going to do this, but wasn't enough. Villa held strong, really good point for them. In fact, it's a weird one because both teams probably come away with a bit of disappointment because Villa conceding the 89th minute is disappointing. Liverpool to not win at home is disappointing. But it looks like Europa League now for Liverpool, to be fair. Unless United lose 2 games on the trot, which is probably not going to happen against Chelsea and Fulham at home, Liverpool will be finishing 5th. There's very little chance they can finish 6th as well. But for Villa, they can still get they can't really get Europa League, but they can still get Conference League if they get a positive result against Brighton.
Yeah, you'd probably say they're favourites for the Conference League, to be honest.
Considering
a
Tottenham are unlikely to win.
Yeah, exactly, because Tottenham playing away to Leeds, that's going to be a very difficult game, especially with what Leeds have to play for. So I think Villa got to be favourites for the Conference League
Even
now.
if Villa lose, they'll probably still get it.
Exactly, and for Spurs to be below Brighton and Aston Villa is an absolute joke. It really is. But credit to Unai Emery and the job he's done at Aston Villa. It's been nothing short of miraculous, to be honest, with where they were when he took over. So credit to that. But let's move on to Wolves against Everton. It finished 1-1, both of us going for 0-0. And I was actually watching this game and I thought Everton played really well. They just couldn't find the back of the net. Wolves scored against the run of play and then they had a bit of a moment after that where they put it on Everton a little bit. The whole of the second half, apart from a little moment, I thought Everton were on top and they got their rewards right at the end. But I think Everton might be a bit hurt that they didn't go and win this game because I thought they deserved it.
Yeah, they did play really well. Again, Calvert-Lewin went off at half-time. That probably would have really, probably would have hurt them quite a lot. But they did end up rallying and getting that late equaliser. Probably the most Sean Dyche goal you're ever likely to see, that equaliser. Just literally a goalmouth scramble and Yerry Mina able to put it in. But what a run from Adama Traore for the Wolves goal. He ran pretty much from the edge of his own box all the way to the edge of the Everton area and had a good shot.
In my head, I had that commentary. That's what I had in my head.
Literally, it was something you don't see enough from Adama Traore. We know that he has that in him, which, definitely you can do that against run of play against Everton. Look, is it a good point for Everton? Look, considering that if they would have won that game now, they pretty much would. They would be safe if they would have got those own. Looking at the other two results, they would be safe right now. Yeah, they would be. So they would be a bit disappointed to go to the final day, and the final day at home to Bournemouth. Look, you're thinking they're going to win, but without Calvert-Lewin, Bournemouth are a decent team, so they definitely can't take it for granted. And the problem now, because they only got a draw, if they draw that game, that could still see them go down.
Yeah.
So they need to win now, and it's still a very touchy situation.
I know. It's going to be a mad last day for the relegation battle. I think it's going to twist and turn throughout the day. But I don't know. I do kind of feel that Everton will get the points on the day to get the job done. Sean Dyche in charge, home crowd. It's going to be a mad atmosphere at Goodison Park. So I think that's just going to about see them through. But let's move on to Nottingham Forest against Arsenal, which finished 1-0 to Nottingham Forest on the day. I went 2-1. I went 2-2. Sim went 2-1 to Arsenal. But it was 1-0 to Nottingham Forest. But it was 82% possession to Arsenal on the day. And they just didn't do much with that possession, though. It was just like very tepid football. Nottingham Forest kept getting these breakaways and looked more likely to score than Arsenal. They nearly got that second goal right at the end as well. So, I mean, would you say it's a deserved victory for Nottingham Forest, that?
I would say so. I don't think... Look, the fact of the matter is they pounced on Arsenal's mistake. They tactically played the game exactly how they wanted to, playing on the counter-attack, play within the space. I think what won them the game was just how solid they were defensively. They literally didn't give many chances to Arsenal whatsoever. Arsenal looked short of ideas. And look, it was a bad mistake from Odegaard for the goal as well. O&E goes through, and actually a bit unlucky as well because Gabriel gets the touch first and it hits it onto O&E and it goes in. But I just think once you get the lead like that, if you're a team battling relegation, you're playing an Arsenal side. Yes, they're on bad form, but still are second in the league, and to not give any chances away is impressive. So you got to say they deserve the victory because I thought they defended really, really well. Arsenal, on the other hand, yeah, they looked dead. They looked like the energy's been sapped from them, to be honest, and it's been a really bad end to the season for them, especially since they lost that City game. Like, they've just seemed down and out, to be honest. And Arteta said before the game, we aren't going to bottle these last two games, but it seems like they have.
Yeah.
And now they can't finish on more points than Poch's Spurs team.
The thing is, right, first of all, let's talk about that Serge Aurier comment on social media, I think, is on his Instagram story after the game, which I absolutely loved. He says, if we can't win the league, they can't win the league. And then he said #Spurs family. So I love that from Serge Aurier. But there's this conversation going on right now that Arsenal have not bottled this league. I mean, I've seen so many pundits and so many people come out and say it. And I'm just thinking, like, what the hell are they on about? Like, how can you be 8 points clear in April? Top of the league at Christmas as well, with most points anyone's ever seen. And no one's ever been that far ahead and not won the league. And how can you only have 2 wins from your last 8 or 9 games and say that's not a bottle job? Like, they're basically, I know they've got a few more draws than Spurs have than lost, but they've got 1 more win than Spurs over the last 9 games.
That's ridiculous.
And everyone's saying like how bad we are, and everyone's saying Arsenal haven't bottled the league. I'm like, how can you say Arsenal haven't bottled the league? It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
They're just trying to cope with what they've done. The fact, look, it's a fact they've bottled the league. There's no debate about it. You can say, look, they deserve credit because they're such a young team. They gave City a close run, but at the end of the day, they bottled it. Not just the results, but also the actual performances, being 2-0 up in 2 consecutive games and giving it away, drawing at home to the bottom of the table Southampton 3-3 as well, not turning up at all at the Etihad, having a horrendous performance in that game, and then obviously losing 3-0 at home to Brighton and 1-0 away at Forest. I mean, you can't say anything but it was a massive bottle job, and statistically it's the biggest bottle job we've ever seen in the Premier League for a team that's been ahead for 93% of the season. So their performances are there for all to see. The results are there for all to see. I mean, considering that Tottenham won 13 of their last 14 games in under Pochettino, and we were considered bottle jobs for not winning that 1 game. Yet no one's saying Arsenal, but not no one, but people are defending Arsenal because they're a young team. Yet they've only won 2 of their last 9 games. I mean, it's a bottle job.
And like, I was actually I saw a clip of Turkish on AFTV yesterday. And I give him so much respect for coming out and saying what he said, because he was saying that it's an absolute disgrace what Arsenal have done over the last couple of months. And everyone's blaming, we've got a young team. But when you actually look at it, their most experienced players were the ones that bottled it the most. Thomas Partey, Gabriel Jesus, players like that of that stature who have been there and done that in different leagues. They're the ones that bottled it the most. And you're talking about the experienced players in the squad.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So I don't want to hear anything other than Arsenal have bottled it, and that's facts.
Yeah, absolute facts. But let's move on to West Ham against Leeds United. 3-1 to West Ham. Sim went 3-2 to Leeds. I went 2-1 to Leeds. But West Ham did win this game 3-1. I mean, Leeds took the lead early on, and you're thinking Big Sam's going to do a number on them. But West Ham came and responded in their last game at the London Stadium, and actually quite an impressive victory. Yeah,
on a high after getting to a European final midweek, you would have thought maybe, because there was videos of them drinking in the dressing room after. You're thinking, all right, are they going to be really up for this on a weekend? But you have to say they're 1-0 down, but they did not let this lie. And I have to say, Leeds, again, when it really needed to get something, get a win, they really failed to turn up after going 1-0 up. And at the end of the day, West Ham made it easy with their chances they were creating in the final third. It was really disappointing from a Leeds point of view that they couldn't really hurt West Ham in that second half. West Ham were the ones dominating, creating all the chances, especially late in the game. They were just counter-attacking effectively. Could have even got more than that 3 goals as well at the end. Leeds barely created a chance late on, and that's got to be really alarm bells. And Sam Allardyce seemed a bit lost in his post-match interview as well. He just seemed like he's not sure where we go from here. They need to now beat Spurs on the last day, which, look, is definitely not unlikely, but it's still, they have to win and hope results go their way, and it's out of their hands. If they would have won that game or even got a draw, things look very different. But now you can't see anything but Leeds going down at the moment.
Yeah.
It's going to be, true. And even whatever you want to say about playing Spurs at home, it's no guarantee they'll win that game as well. Yeah. I know we're shocking away from home, but if you see Leeds now need to win. So they know what they need to do. There's one thing, is go and score goals. And for players like Kane and Son, that's exactly how they want to play. Yeah. So it's going to be difficult for this Leeds team.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move on to Brighton against Southampton. 3-1 to Brighton on the day. Both of us went for 4-0, and that's the way it went pretty much. It was a demolition job of Southampton. Team already gone down. Brighton, I thought, played really well. Probably should have got more goals on the day. And Southampton are just, they're done for. I mean, I know they're done for a few weeks ago, but in terms of their performances, they're not even showing anything anymore.
Yeah, to be fair, they got one, and then they've nearly made it 2-2. Well, not for a very tight VAR decision, but Look, Brighton were always on top of this game. It was only a matter of time before they started burying their chances. They'll probably be annoyed it was only 3-1 and not more, but that pretty much confirms Europa League football, for Brighton, which is a brilliant achievement, brilliant season for Brighton, Roberto De Zerbi. They've been so fun to watch, and you just have that faith as well with them, that belief, that even if they lose a McAllister or a Caicedo, that they can replace them effectively, because they've already shown it so many times, even this season, with Trossard going and Cucurella going. You're thinking that's a lot of quality, but Estepinian comes in, you got Matoma coming in, so it doesn't seem to affect them at all.
They seem to be getting better.
Yeah, they seem to be, exactly. So really doesn't, and also they can reinvest that money into new players. So look, they seem to have a very good model going. If they can keep De Zerbi going into next season, like, who knows what they're going to be challenging for, if they can add a bit of quality as well to that squad. I mean, and if they can keep that football, maybe the thing is with them as well, with the way they're playing, maybe players are going to be like, look, I want to be part of that. It looks like it's a really good place to be right now. And if they can sign someone like Levi Colwell on a permanent from Chelsea, they can go a really long way to really not just make this a one-off season, but actually build off it as well. So really impressive season from Brighton, and fair play to them. They deserve to be ahead of Spurs.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're thinking, like, the Brighton fans must have been thinking when Chelsea nabbed Graham Potter off them, they must have been thinking like, oh, we've lost a really good manager here. Where do we go from here? And De Zerbi has just come in and made a bit of a mockery of what Graham Potter did, because he's done so much better.
I don't totally agree with that, to be honest. I think he's built on a lot of what Potter's done. He has done better, but yeah, I think we're forgetting how well Brighton started the season under Potter. They were scoring lots of goals before De Zerbi. Not to say I'm not giving De Zerbi credit. I'm just saying I wouldn't say he's made a mockery of what.
But it's beyond
Potter's
all
done.
realms of possibility of what Brighton thought to finish in the Europa League spots. I mean, what's the highest they've done before that? 8th or 9th?
I mean, that's still pretty good.
Exactly, and De Zerbi's gone up to 6th.
Yeah, but Potter's taken them from a team battling relegation to a team 8th or 9th, and then he's built on that.
But like Potter, I don't think they thought under Potter they would get Europa League spots.
Correct.
I thought maybe it was a massive ambition to get there, and De Zerbi's gone there and actually done it. You know?
Correct. I'm saying it's a marvelous achievement, but I'm thinking he's like really built on the foundations Potter.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
So and I think as well, Potter could have also like gone on a run like this. I think the way they started the season. So I wouldn't say he's completely. I mean, he has done better than Potter because he's finished 6th. It's a brilliant job, but I think Potter is still a good manager in my opinion.
Let's move on to Manchester City against Chelsea. Sim went 4-1. I went 3-0, both to Man City. It did finish 1-0. And I thought it was pretty easy work for Man City this game for the most part. I thought Chelsea had their chances, a few and far between in the second half where they could have done something, but I thought it was light work really for Man City most of the time. And they rested all their big players as well, Haaland, De Bruyne, stuff like that. But who cares? Alvarez is there.
Exactly. It felt like a testimonial, this game, to be honest. It was played at that kind of pace. Maybe it was because it was really sunny and, City had rested loads of players, won the lead. Chelsea had given up months ago. So it felt like a very, very much a dead game, especially after Arsenal losing yesterday. There was nothing to play for really for either side. But to be fair to Chelsea, they did have a few chances. Sterling could have scored a couple of times, and I think Gallagher hit the post as well. So they'll be a bit annoyed they didn't get on the score sheet. But I think City always felt like they're in control. Like a 1-0 up, it was kind of like felt like City were like, look, we're just going to pass this around if you want to do anything. If you score, we're going to score like 3 or 4, so you better not score. And I feel like Chelsea kind of obliged a bit.
Yeah.
So
it felt like to me that Man City or everyone in that stadium was just waiting for that trophy celebration at the end of the game. That's all it was.
Yeah, it was just a dead game. But look, there you go. Man City are champions, deservedly so as well. As much as Arsenal bottled it, they had to be there to capitalise, and they were every step of the way. It's fair play to them.
There's an argument going around social media at the moment. Is this league becoming a bit of a farmers' league? 5 of the last 6 titles have been won by Manchester City. Do you think? Can you see anyone else coming to challenge Man City and doing, winning the league consistently?
I think there's one key element. It has Pep Guardiola. While Pep is there, they are an imperious force. Like I think teams are going to really struggle to compete with him while Guardiola's there. Once he leaves, I think it might become a bit of a different story. But right now, I think while he's there, they're going to keep winning, or at least definitely be into challenges. But you got to remember, United did the same. No one called it a farmers' league when United did the same.
Yeah, did they do 5 and 6?
I think so. They won.
I know they won 3 in a row.
They won 3 in a row. During the 90s, they won 8 out of 13. during the 90s and early 2000s, 8 out of 13. City now have won 7 out of 13. So United were more dominant.
Yeah, fair
so
enough.
like no one called it Farmers League then. And also in the last 10 years or so, I think we've had 5 different winners of the league. Yes,
So we've had Chelsea, Man City, Leicester,
Liverpool,
and Liverpool.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly.
4,
So
yeah.
no, in the last 10 years, what season is 22-23? No, so Man United as well.
Man
won,
United
and Man
as well.
United won. So that's 5 different winners. So yes, right now they're dominant, but they're going through a dominant spell. Sometimes teams do it. It's not like Bayern Munich who've won it for 10 years in a row. You know what I mean? It's different.
They ain't going to win it this year, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, not for
Well,
sure.
they might
but
not.
They might not. But, you know, Dortmund are favourites now to win that league, which is crazy to think about. But anyway.
But I also think it's different. I just think, like, when you look at the other leagues, yes, City are dominant, but you've got so many big clubs here who could compete. Like, if in Germany and Italy, and sorry, not Italy, and France is different. There's literally one super club that's winning it every year. And
Yeah.
that's it.
No, I completely agree with you. I don't buy into the narrative that it's coming into a farmers league, but I also think exactly what you're saying. Pep Guardiola is a key factor into that. But let's move on to the last game, which was last night, Newcastle against Leicester, 0-0 on the day. I went 4-1, Sim went 2-1. I mean, we were out last night, but judging these stats are actually crazy. 78% possession for Newcastle, 23 shots, 4 on target. Leicester, 22% possession, 1 shot all game. And how did Newcastle not win that game?
Yeah, and they hit the post twice, I saw on the highlights as well, so they definitely were unlucky. But it seemed as though Leicester, I guess what their thinking was, after the last few games, so they lost 3-0 to Liverpool, they lost 5-3 to Fulham, they just want to stop conceding silly goals. And they went 3 at the back, 3 defensive midfielders as well on top of that. And obviously the 2 strikers to try and catch Newcastle out. They literally had 1 shot the whole game, which was right at the end. To be fair, they nearly scored it. Pope had to make a good save. But they literally were parking the bus looking for a draw in this game because I think they wanted to up their chances of staying up on the last day. And I think if they would have lost, that means they need Everton to lose on the last day. But now Everton can draw and they win and they can stay up. So I guess that's what we're going for. Look, just get the draw. Don't even think about going here and winning, and just give yourself another opportunity to try and stay up on the last day, which I guess makes sense considering there was probably no chance of them winning this game. But if you're a Leicester fan, would that frustrate you watching that game, knowing, like, look, if you win, you're out of the relegation zone. So, look, do you go for the win or do you just try and is it right to just improve your chances in that way?
I think they played the right move, to be honest, because, you know, it's not a foregone conclusion that Everton go and win against Bournemouth. It's not a foregone conclusion that Spurs lose to Leeds, you know. So if they take it to the last day, like everyone was saying last week, they're down and out. There's no chance of them staying up. So get a credible draw at St James's Park, take it to the last day and see what happens.
But they're being that pragmatic. Could they have at least done something to try and get the win?
I think the more that they pushed, if they pushed a bit more, Newcastle would have just opened them up, in my opinion. Newcastle are that good. And obviously it sealed their Champions League hopes for next season as well. So I think Leicester played it right. Do you not think so?
I think they did, but I was just wondering how, as a Leicester fan, how I'd be feeling watching that. Would I not be really frustrated knowing that a win takes you outside the relegation zone?
You are playing Newcastle away, which is one of the most difficult games this year in the Premier League.
It is. I'm not saying they've done the wrong thing, but I'm just saying watching the game as a Leicester fan. If you're a Leicester fan yesterday, it probably was a frustrating experience.
Yeah, but you know, if you do play that way and you get absolutely pulverised, you know, we're going to be sitting here being like, do you think they should have parked the bus and gone for a draw?
Potentially.
So anyway. Now the bit that we know no one wants to see. The star man this week, Evan Ferguson against Julio Enciso. So Evan Ferguson and Enciso, both of them did not play in the first game. I think they both came on, but it was none of them did anything. In the second game, Evan Ferguson gets 2 goals before half-time, and Enciso gets taken off at half-time. Luckily for me, they took off Evan Ferguson with that half an hour to go, but he gets 2 goals, so that's 10 points.
Damage was already done.
Unbelievable.
So 10 points to me.
For the first time this season, pretty much, Sim's leading.
Come on, right.
I've done an Arsenal. I've literally done an Arsenal.
Literally, right, you're choking right at the end.
Oh, my God. I couldn't believe it. I was sitting here when that Brighton game was on. I was sitting here with Brian, and Evan Ferguson scored, and I start shouting, and Brian's like, well, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I was like, Evan Ferguson has bloody scored. And he was like, yeah, so what?
I was driving and at the time. And
did you see my text come through?
There was someone next to me who was like doing the music on the phone, and he was like, Ben just texted you saying "fuck." I was like, oh my God, Ferguson must have scored. I was like, yeah. I was like, can you check the score? He's like, yeah, Ferguson just scored. I was like, yeah. I was like, brilliant.
Oh, God. Anyway, that brings an end to this week. Oh, no, we got to do the predictions now. So we got midweek predictions to do as well. Brighton against Manchester City at the Amex. Sim's gone for 3-2 to Brighton here.
Yeah, I think open game. I think that it's going to be. I think it's going to be interesting to see what lineup City play, because I'm not sure if they're going to completely rest all their players, because they did that last game. And I think they're going to do it on the final day with the lead up to the final. So I do think maybe in this game they play a few players. But I also think Brighton, knowing they've got top six, I just think they're going to try and put on a show for their last home game of the season as well. So I think a nice open game. I've gone for 3-2. I've gone for a Brighton win if City rest their players.
Yeah, I think City will rest their players as well. But I feel like with both teams having their objectives completed now for the season, I think it might be a nothing game. I think it might be an exciting game to watch, but I just went for 1-1. I think that it's most likely will be a draw with both teams got nothing to play for. So I've gone for 1-1 in this game. Next up is Manchester United against Chelsea. I've gone for 1-0 to Man United in this game. I mean, it's been like the common theme with Man United over the past few weeks. Their defence really holding strong. Chelsea, obviously, not done great under Lampard. I think he's had just one win since he's come in. And so I've backed Man United to win this game.
I've actually gone for 1-1, even though it's at Old Trafford. If United just try and see out this game, trying to keep a clean sheet, I have a feeling Chelsea actually might score in this game, because I actually thought they looked fairly decent going forward against Man City. So I think they might have some chances in this game to score, and I think they might get one over the line. But Man United definitely won't lose, and I think they'll be able to claw it back, get that 1-1 draw, and that'll be enough for Champions League football for them, and they'll probably just be happy with that. So I went for 1-1.
All right, so there you have it. Those are our midweek predictions. That is our Spur-Spective. Let me know in the comment section below your predictions for the midweek fixtures. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.